Thank you very much, Mr. President, for being with us. Mr. President, in January, Cuban President Fidel Castro gave you some advice. He said that for peace, you needed to have a lot of patience.
That's right.
This week, you told the FARC leadership, the guerrilla leadership, that your patience had a limit, something that the FARC commander Raul Reyes says it plays into the hands of those who are against the peace process. Is your patience coming to a limit, Mr. President?
I think that the first thing that we have to have in mind is that we signed an agreement with Manuel Marulanda, the leader of the FARC, on the 2nd of May. And this agreement has one very important issue, that it's the creation or the establishment of a verification commission in the detention zone. And I think that what we're willing to do after the 7th of May, that the FARC and the government start and agree in starting the negotiation process, we need to establish this commission so that the negotiation process could go forward. And what we are saying is that we need gestures of peace of the FARC. And that's where the government, and that's what the country, and that's what the international community is asking to the FARC. And we hope that they will give these signs, these gestures of peace, so the people in Colombia and around the world will be confident of the peace process that we hope to start very soon in Colombia.
But you were about to sit down at the negotiating table. The date was set for the 19th of July.
That's right.
You hadn't established an international verification commission yet. Why couldn't you sit down and discuss it then?
No, because that was a pre-establishment. We said we need a verification commission so that we could start the negotiations. And the one that has postponed the negotiation is the government. It's not the guerrilla. It's the government. Because we think that for the peace process is very important, for them or for us, for the insurgency and for the government, the establishment of this verification commission.
But you are undoubtedly under a lot of pressure from powerful economic and military sectors of this country to forget this peace process, which doesn't seem to be going anywhere, and seek a military solution.
No, I don't think so. The military are supporting the process. They are in favor of the peace process. The economic groups, the country is in favor of the peace process. 10 million Colombians voted in October of 1997 to promote and to establish a peace process in this country. And we have advanced a lot. In only 8 months, we pass from starting the dialogue to the negotiation table. And I think that's very important. In the last 40 years of this country, we never arrived to a point in which we are right now, that it's starting negotiation with the FARC, and we hope to start negotiations with the ELN.
7 months have passed, but the real negotiations haven't started, and many of your allies, even some people in Washington, are saying that you have been too weak. And indeed, Mr. President, there is an impression that you are becoming isolated.
By the contrary, yesterday even President Clinton gave full support to the Colombian government. He gave full support to the President of Colombia. Even President Clinton was very clear. It's impossible to achieve peace through a military process, through a military intervention. What you're doing, Mr. President, is working in favor of a political solution, and that's what we're doing in Colombia. And that's the support we have. 21 countries of the Ibero-American Summit support the Colombian process. In the last summit of the Rio, between the Europeans and Latin America and the Caribbean, they support the peace process that we are working on in Colombia. So we have the full support of the international community, and that's what we are asking the guerrillas. Why don't you do some gestures of peace so that that international community that is willing to support Colombia also economically, financially, will give us the real confidence. They will have real confidence in this process, because that's what we're working forward, to achieve that peace process in my country.
So you're leaving it all in the hands of the guerrillas. How do you propose to break this impasse?
No. We are working together. We sign an agreement in which we'll create a verification commission that we will agree, both the insurgency and the government, in the names of the people that are going to work in this verification commission. And even today, the High Commissioner for Peace is in the area, in the detention area, talking to the leaders of the FARC so that we could agree in the names before sitting in the table of negotiations.
But isn't there also a problem of what the verification commission will do? You
No,
have one.
it's very clear, Lucia.
Not to the FARC.
No, that's why we are asking them, look, the 9th of July of 1998, in the dialogue we had with Marulanda, we said, we will establish a detention zone. There will be 5 municipalities. I established the detention zone. There are 5 municipalities in the detention zone. No guerrilla should be in the municipalities. They should be out of the municipalities. There are some of them in some of the municipalities. You should respect the Constitution and the law of Colombia, because here, in this point is very important, even that we have a detention zone is because the law allows the president to establish this detention zone so that we could start this process of dialogue and negotiations with the guerrilla. And we respect the mayors that were elected by popular vote, and we respect the police. We create a special police for this area. So those are the rules. And that's why we agree on create a verification commission so that they will verify what is happening inside the detention zone.
And in your view, the guerrillas have violated that agreement?
I think there have been mistakes in both sides, and I said that to Marulanda. It's impossible that once when a priest says something in church, you will try to throw out the priests of the area. Or at the same time, I have informs that maybe you are recruiting children for the guerrilla. I think that you have to be aware that this detention zone is something that is very Colombian for a peace process. No process in the world looking forward for a peace process has done something similar. And I think that has been very useful. At the end, we're starting, and we hope to start negotiations very soon. But I think there have been mistakes by the insurgency, some mistakes done by the people that are in charge of the zone, and that's why we agree with Marulanda to establish this verification zone to avoid more mistakes inside this area.
Aren't you afraid, though, that if there are not any results soon, if there really isn't headway made, that the military and those who are opposed to this peace process in this country, and I think you would agree with me that there are many that don't back this.
There are more enemies of the peace than friends of the peace process. And that's something that happens all around the world, always. And that's why we have to be very patient, and that we hope to get this process forward.
You said your patience had a limit.
Yes, and the patience of the government, and the patience of the Colombians, and the patience of the international community. That's why if we are just in the point to start the process, what I am asking is Marulanda to keep his word. The important thing of this process is that me as president, I have kept my word always. In all the things I compromised with Marulanda, I kept my word. And I hope that Marulanda keep his word in what we signed in this agreement of the 2 of May.
And if he doesn't?
Then at the end, that's not the will that they will show a will to do peace in this country. And that's why this process has been going forward, because I'm confident in the word of Marulanda, and Marulanda is confident in the word of the president.
This week, President Bill Clinton said that as a matter of U.S. national security, the United States would do everything it could to help Colombia find peace. To what extent are you willing to ask for military help to do this from the United States? Yeah, but President Clinton never said the word national security for the United States.
No, he said
that peace was a national security matter for the United States
no,
because of the drug.
No. He said, in the letter he sent me yesterday, he said that he was willing to do everything in the hands of the United States to help Colombia to go out of this civil and violent war that we have been having in our country for the last 40 years. We are asking military support for my army, for the modernization of my army, and that's why last week the Minister of Defense, the Chief Commander of the Armed Forces went to Washington to ask support in 2 things: modernization of my armed forces, and secondly, what I proposed when I arrived to government was the creation of a special battalion that will work hand with the police in eradicating and fighting drugs in these far areas of Colombia.
According to Commander Raul Reyes, there are so far, up until now, some 300 U.S. military advisors working with your army in the counterinsurgency effort. Is that true?
I don't have the number, but they're giving support to us, even to this special battalion to fight drugs. We have advisors, American advisors in our country, working hand by hand with the government. Why? Because this is not a problem of Colombia. The problem of drugs is the problem of the international community, and we're asking help to the world, to the United States, to the European Union, to the Asians, everybody, because this is a problem that we all together, we should fight to eradicate drugs, not only of Colombia, but from the whole world.
It's no secret that the insurgency movement in Colombia has escalated over the last few years. And there are people, and you read the editorials, who predict that this will very soon become a scenario very similar to the one that we saw in El Salvador in the 80s, with U.S. military advisors, with a war that is going into the cities. Do you see that happening?
No, I don't think so. Really, I think that that's a stereotype of war that they want to create in Colombia. We've been fighting in this war for 40 years. It's a completely different scenario. Salvador, Guatemala, it's completely different. Even Mexico, everybody tries to put the Colombian process similar to other processes. I think it's completely different. And in my case, and when I've said it permanently and continuously, in these 4 years that I'm going to be president of this country, there is not going to be any military intervention from the United States or from any other country in my country.
At the last OAS summit, however, there was a proposal by the United States to create a regional, multinational force to handle conflicts such as the one in your country. Yes. Would you be willing to have such a multinational force?
No, definitely. In my government, there's not going to be any military intervention in my country.
Having U.S. military advisors is not intervention?
No. I think that's something that it's something that we're working together. I think that this is something, in the case of the anti-narcotics battalion that we're working, we, at the end, not only Colombia, all Latin America, we have agreements with the United States in different things. Sometimes Americans come to Colombia, Colombians go to the United States to train, or to the International Academy in Washington. And I think that's something that we are having, and we had in our country for many years.
Why do you think that there is this sensation then in some parts of, amongst many people in Colombia whom I've spoken to, and also abroad, that things are just getting out of control here? The insurgency, the drug trafficking, the violence, the economy.
No, I don't think so. Even if you could see, I think also, for example, what happened in the economy. I think the economy, even the problems that we have, not only the world crisis, but the crisis in Latin America. What happened in Colombia is that we are having this crisis that we inherited from the last government, and we're working forward. We got resources. Last year, even after my state visits to Washington, we guaranteed the resources for Colombia for the year 99 and the year 2000. Now we are working hand by hand with the IMF to get some resources to guarantee and look forward for the stability of the change in Colombia, avoid devaluation in my country. And I hope that, and that's where we're working forward, that through the IMF, World Bank, and IDB, we will have $5 billion in the next year that will guarantee the stability of Colombia. So I think that in Colombia, regarding the economy, we are in the right track. The other day, even the president of the World Bank and the director general of IMF sent a message to the private sector, telling them, look, Colombia is in the right track, and we are giving full support to the Colombian government. So I think in the economy, even that we are down in the crisis, I think that curves show some reactivation, some signs that are going to be very important. The number one problem is unemployment, and we're putting all the efforts of the government to create and to revitalize and reactivate employment in the country. Regarding the guerrilla, I think that what happened, if you see the figures, after my first year of government, I think that after we start the dialogue with the guerrilla leaders, the figures have come down. So I think that's something that is very important. And at the end, we hope to start very soon this negotiation process with the FARC and with the ELN. So I think that Colombia is in the right way, in the right track. We know that we have problems, but we hope successfully to finish them at the end of my 4-year term.
Mr. President, we've never seen such an escalation of fighting between the army and the guerrillas as we have seen in the last year. The number of kidnapped people has increased. So things, at least apparently, seem to be getting a lot worse before they're getting better.
Oh, no, Lucia. If you go backwards and remember what happened in this country in the last 4 years, in the last 8 years, the terrorist attacks of the guerrilla were even worse than what we were having. Even I think there are some figures. After we retrain, reorganize our army, there have not been any kidnappings of soldiers and policemen. There have been fightings, yes, but we've been fighting for the last 40 years. But if you could see the figures, that's not the real thing. Figures are different. I think that maybe they have done different type of acts, like kidnapping an airplane that will give a whole world coverage of this terrorist act, or a kidnapping in the church. But I think that what is happening in the country regarding the common battles between insurgency and the army, if you see the figures, I think they're less than what happened years before.
Now changing the subject to the old subject, drugs.
Yes.
Undoubtedly, the relationship between the United States and Colombia has improved immensely since you took over the presidency. Yes. But there is still the feeling, certainly in some circles in Washington, and U.S. drug czar Barry McCaffrey will be here at the end of this week. Perhaps he can tell you himself what he thinks. But there is the impression that Colombia is still losing the drug war.
It's not Colombia, it's the world. And I think that's something that we have to be very clear. We are putting all our efforts. We are putting even our money. Instead of creating jobs in this country, we are putting the money to avoid drug to go to the United States. And that's why I think we need help of the United States. Do you think that we could end the largest business in the world, $500 billion business, with $285 million in the next 4 years? It's impossible. We need money. And that's why through what I call the Marshall Plan, the Colombia Plan, we are asking the United States through a donors table. I am asking the European Union, if you want to eradicate the drug problem in this country, we need at least 10 to 15 years and at least 15 to 20 billion dollars if we really want to end and finish this problem. Not with 100 or 20 or $5 million, no. If we really are committed in the fight of drug, we are putting the lives of our policemen, lives of civilians, and we need the help of the United States. We need the help of the world to eradicate this problem. And for the first time, I think that if we sign a peace agreement with the FARC, they are willing to eradicate drug problem in our country. But we need money to create crop substitution, really alternative development in this area. And that's why I think we need the help, not only from the United States, but from the whole world.
You've been asking for this for at least the year that you've been in the presidency. Have you received any help?
Yes. First of all, we're working with the United States, even President Clinton. He said personally that he will lead a donors table. So we are working for a donors table at the end of the year, or maybe starting the next year. Why? Because also there are other problems that stop this project. First of all, the Mitch problem in Central America. So as you remember, this last week or last 2 weeks, they finished donors tables in Sweden. Now the Kosovo crisis. They're going to put a lot of money in the Kosovo crisis. So I think we have not been very lucky at this moment, but we hope that we get some resources to start putting forward this Plan Colombia. We have the bonus for peace in Colombia, that is a tax for the 15,000 higher taxpayers of this country. We hope to get like $3 billion for that project, but we need more and more money if we want really to eradicate drugs in our country.
Mr. President, you are one of Colombia's youngest presidents ever, and you are leading a country which has perhaps the highest rate of violence in the hemisphere, the oldest and longest running guerrilla war in the hemisphere, the most powerful and fiercest drug cartels in the world. Don't you sometimes wonder, or do you ask yourself if you've taken on more than you or perhaps anyone can handle?
No, I think that we're here because we knew and we know our country, and we knew what we need to do in this country. I think that I've been prepared for running my country for many years. And I think that for the first time, I'm very optimistic. Even that people sometimes are pessimistic, I think that Colombia is going in the right track and it will be in the right way regarding the economy. It's the only country in Latin America. You know that Colombia has been, by the IDB, they have said that Colombia is one of the more stable economies in the world. From 1925 to 1997, the average of growing of this country has been 4.4%, one of the highest, I think, in the area. And I think that regarding our economy, we're in the right way. And secondly, I think, and I'm very optimistic, that we are going to achieve peace in Colombia. And that's why I think we need to work very hard in these two scenarios, in the economy and in the peace process, that will go hand by hand.